What is going on, Pittsburgh Steelers fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Steelers Preview. I'm Jeff Hartman, joined by Dave Schofield. No Brian Davis. He's got some family stuff he's tending to. Our thoughts and prayers go out to him right now. I know that's for sure. We miss him, but at the same time, Dave, welcome to the show. How's it going?
Hey, it's going, Jeff. A little bit different setup here, so we'll see how this goes.
Yeah, I'm not, I don't know what to expect. We're using a new platform. We are shifting to a new platform, and so we're seeing. I don't know if Dave can see it. I know I can see it. Captain Underpants is joining us. Afton is here.
I've got nothing. I didn't even have music to start. I didn't even know that we had music.
Nothing. He's got nothing. So I can see here. Let's here. Afton says, "Hey guys, there you go. Pop it up on the screen there. Very good." We're learning. Here we go.
We're learning.
Let's talk Steelers. The title of this podcast, as we pick back up where we left off with the draft picks, I thought it actually works out really well because the last 2 weeks we've had other things to discuss. We've had Aaron Rodgers signing. Last week we went in a different direction. That was what was the direction we went in last week? I can't even remember.
Summing up minicamp,
Yeah,
I think it was. Yeah.
All
Oh,
right,
hey,
so-
I found the live stream, just so you know, so I can see there's a.
Nice.
Hi, Jared Dibble gave us a piece. There we go. I don't know that I can click on it, but I can see it.
All right. So the question
And I feel
is-
weird, Jeff. You should
It's
be on
weird.
the other side. This is.
You know what's funny is that when this is actually being seen, it will be flipped.
I don't think so. I was just on YouTube, and I'm on the left, and I don't like it.
But I'm saying when it's in replay, like everything will be flipped. Anyways, that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Will Howard. And the title is, how does Will Howard fit into the Steelers quarterback room in 2025? This is an interesting question based on the fact that, well, to be honest with you, in the last 2 weeks, things have changed dramatically. So I'll let you answer the question first, Dave. How does he fit into this room right now?
Let's just say this. No, I'm not going to go down that route yet. He fits where a 6th-round draft pick should. You know, I mean, when you look at it this way, he's the guy. He's going to be your number 3. He was always the number 3 when there was 3 guys, and when it bumped to 4 guys, guess what? He was still number 3. That just meant who was number 2 jumped all the way to number 4. That's just how it worked. That's where he should be for this year, or at least that's the way that I see it and everything going forward. I've always just kind of viewed him as the number 3 guy, which is a great place for a 6th-round draft pick quarterback to see if he can be something that could move up that depth chart eventually, not even necessarily this year or not.
Well, a follow-up question is, how do you view Skylar Thompson? And I know that they got Skylar Thompson. It was one of the first signings they made because he was released and it was a futures contract. I don't think it's a competition. I really don't. Because Will Howard was a drafted player. And we know that Omar Khan values his drafted players. But you think Skylar Thompson could be a practice squad guy? They typically don't hold a quarterback on the practice squad. It doesn't make sense. They have their 4 arms, which is what Omar Khan said. We want 4 quarterbacks going to camp. They have them. What's your thoughts on those 2 individuals, meaning Will Howard and Skylar Thompson?
All right, I got to go back, and I think I talked about this on my show, and it wasn't this one. I think it might have been Pittsburgh Standard Time within the last few weeks. This is the crazy season where all of a sudden even the Pittsburgh media forgets that the Steelers don't keep a quarterback on the practice squad, even with 16 players. Year after year after year after year, you'll even hear people from the Steelers themselves. You'll hear Dale Lally and people like this say, oh, well, this quarterback for the practice squad. Year after year. And guess what? They don't. When they drafted Chris Oladokun, guess what? He didn't even make the last preseason game. It was never about the practice squad. Now, does it mean the Steelers have never done a quarterback on the practice squad? They did in 2020. COVID made sense. Have they brought in people to be on the practice squad to, simulate Lamar Jackson in practice in the past? Yes, they have. But they've never had, outside of that 1 year, a quarterback that, we're just going to put him on the practice squad and there they go. Since, I think, maybe 2000. It's been that long. So you're talking about something for 25 years. So no, it's not that because people just think that the practice squad is where you stash players. It's not. It actually serves a purpose for what you're doing in practice and what you're doing preparing for a game, especially now that you have the call-ups, everything else. You need to balance things out. it would be more useful to have a kicker or a punter on the practice squad because at least they could practice. What's a fourth quarterback going to do in practice when a third quarterback can barely get any snaps anyway? Nothing. It just doesn't make sense. So to me, Skylar Thompson was always that guy that they knew was going to be an arm. You didn't know how anything was going to work out. But I mean, my goodness, this is the type of player he is. It's one of those things you got to start somewhere, and you're constantly going to look to upgrade. Did you even hear his name during OTAs?
No,
me neither, because that's just basically how it's going to be.
It's one of those situations for me where Skylar Thompson was just like Mason Rudolph was as it turns to an Aaron Rodgers. He was insurance. He was insurance policy. So, okay, we might draft a guy. If we don't, we have Skylar Thompson. And honestly, if their room was Rodgers, Rudolph, and Thompson, that's not bad. Like, you've got a lot of experience in that room in a lot of different ways. But you add Will Howard, and you're like, okay, this guy has some potential upside and could be the future long term. But let's focus on Will Howard for the next few minutes. What, in your opinion, Dave, is the best case scenario for Will Howard in 2025?
The best case scenario for Will Howard in 2025 is that because of NFL rules, he now gets to put his uniform on every Sunday and is there in case the two guys in front of him get injured. The best case scenario would be, and I'm not just talking for Will Howard, I'm talking for the Pittsburgh Steelers as well, which, he's on the Pittsburgh Steelers. The two go hand in hand now.
Yeah.
To me, it's that come week 18, he's your backup quarterback that might even get to come on the field and take a knee or hand the ball off a couple times. That would be the perfect season for Will Howard. But we all know that doesn't necessarily mean how it's going to be. Yeah. He could be called into backup duty earlier if one of the other quarterbacks goes down. Not to compare him to the great one. We don't want a Ben Roethlisberger situation because guess what? Where Will Howard now was the same place Ben Roethlisberger was going in this time, his rookie season. He was the number 3 guy going into camp. And because he was drafted, you didn't have to worry about if he was going to be cut or not. Obviously, much more with Ben. Technically, Will Howard, if he shows that he really can't do it, they're going to cut him. But I don't see that happening. But then Ben Roethlisberger, what do you know? He's on the field by week 2, not out of choice, but out of necessity. I'm hoping that's not what happens to Will Howard. I think it would be better for Will Howard if he just learns and just grows in that aspect. So as a Steelers fan that wants to see the Steelers succeed this year, I don't want to see Will Howard on the field.
I was going to say 2018 Mason Rudolph would be a great year for him.
Yeah.
And that is he doesn't
Mason didn't even get to put his uniform on the sidelines.
There was no QB3 at that. I get that. But at the same time, you're like, okay, this guy, if he just is a sponge and just learns. And I thought it was pretty funny when Aaron Rodgers was talking to Mason Rudolph, or not Mason Rudolph, he was talking to Will Howard, and it was going to offer him some advice. He goes, I hope I'm not overstepping my boundaries here. And Will Howard's like, dude, you're freaking Aaron Rodgers. What are you talking about?
I know.
So I think he's in a really good spot. And I think Will Howard, this is something that Chris Carter said on Monday's Let's Ride podcast.
Which is a really good one, by the way.
Yeah, if you missed it, go back and listen where we talked about Will Howard, and he said, I want Will Howard to have a 6th round year, meaning just let him learn, let him practice, let him struggle, let him learn from the struggles. And then everyone says, Chris hates Will Howard. He goes, no, he's just a 6th round draft pick. You got to take it at face value.
Yes.
This is why I still go back to it, and we can talk about it if you'd like. I think one of the worst things that ever happened to Mason Rudolph wasn't Ben Roethlisberger on his radio show kind of cutting his legs out from underneath him. It was when Kevin Colbert made it, I guess, public or said something about we had a 1st round grade on him and we got him in the 3rd round. I think that was one of the worst things that could ever happen to Mason Rudolph because from that moment on, everyone thought what? He has 1st round talent and he should be that type of guy. Whether you like it or not, I think that's what it meant. What are your thoughts, Dave?
Well, 2018 was the last draft that before I met one Jeff Hartman and got involved with writing and podcasting and everything else. That was the last draft I had on my own. Okay. And I have said it many times, I'm not afraid to admit it, that I wanted the Steelers to draft Mason Rudolph in the first round.
Oh,
I did.
You wanted him in the first.
Did.
Okay.
I did.
Okay.
Going into that one. I had seen, and I wasn't following everything as crazy as other people do. I was probably following about as much as I do now building up to it, but it was these parallels of Ben Roethlisberger and the big arm and all that other stuff. And I'm just like, I'm not sure about Lamar Jackson. Yeah, I didn't know what I was talking about. But honestly, Lamar Jackson with the Steelers, I don't think he's low. I don't think he's Lamar if he gets drafted by the Steelers. I think he happened to be in the right place where they were willing to adapt to him more than him having to become sit back and be a pocket passer, whatnot. He didn't pair well with Ben Roethlisberger with all those years left on in his career. So I was high on Mason Rudolph. I was ecstatic. Remember, they had to trade up a couple spots. They were sitting at the beginning of the third round with that draft pick that I can't even remember where they got it from, that they had an extra third round pick towards the front, and they had to trade up a few draft picks in order to jump ahead of Cincinnati to grab Mason Rudolph. But my big thing is, this is what I would say is more of an embarrassment for the Steelers. If Mason Rudolph had a first round grade and you took him in the third round, does that mean the player that you drafted in the second round, you had a first round grade on? Because obviously you had to follow your big board. You do best player available, and you drafted James Washington before you drafted Mason Rudolph. Does that mean they also had a first round grade on James Washington?
Mm-hmm. I don't know.
That's why I don't know that I always buy that first round grade thing.
I don't know if I always buy we take the best player available either. I've always said that the Steelers and the majority of the NFL do a hybrid approach, which is we take the best player available at the positions that we need to fill.
Yes, at a position of need.
Right. So it's like best of both worlds. And I don't want to get off into this tangent, but I did a show with Wesley Coleman in the offseason getting ready for the draft. And we were talking about this. And he said, I think you have to do best player available. I said, well, wait a second. If you're the Philadelphia Eagles and you have Saquon Barkley, who's coming off a career year and could have broken Eric Dickerson's record, and you get on the board and the best player is Ashton Genty, are you going to draft him? Probably not, because you have a stud running back already. So you're going to go to another position. Therefore, that's that hybrid philosophy. What do you think about this? I'll bring it up here. Mark Malone, he says, having no quarterback coach hurt Rudolph. I forgot about that. I forgot that when Mason Rudolph was early in his career, I don't know if it was 2018 or 2019. It was 2018 for sure. There was no quarterback coach. It was just Ben being Ben.
Yeah.
I don't know. But anyways, Will Howard, to get back to the topic at hand, I think I'm not suggesting that he is going to be the future, and I'm not suggesting he's going to have any opportunity to even show what he can do outside of practice. But for the fans out there, and Dave, you talked about this on your unpopular opinion earlier this offseason, that think, well, we need to see we need to see it. Well, the fans want to see it. The team sees it. They see it. Chris Carter talked about how rough Will Howard looked in the rookie minicamp and phase 3 of OTAs, but then he kind of leveled out and started to figure things out. So I don't know, Dave, what are your final thoughts on Will Howard?
Wow, final thoughts on Will Howard. That seems like we're already there. Yeah, I don't want him to be rushed. I really don't. I don't think it's best for him. And the whole, you have to know what you have in him because of next year's draft and everything. You don't take a 6th round draft quarterback this year to say, oh, we better find out about him to know if we need to go quarterback in the first next year. It's not on the same level. That's just what I think.
At this stage, with Aaron Rodgers now in the fold, you'd have to have a catastrophic season for him to really see significant playing time. Aaron Rodgers would have to get hurt. Mason Rudolph would have to get hurt and or is ineffective. And then you're turning to the 6th round draft pick. And if that's the case, that's awful. But
just think about this. If Will Howard actually becomes not just a serviceable backup quarterback, which would be great for him. That's something that the Steelers will need going forward for years to come. Imagine if he could become a starter, and you knew that prior to the 2026 draft. If he could be that guy. Just think of the freedom that they then have to add in other places.
Shoot, they'd have 12 picks.
Yeah. So it would be, but to bank on that, no, I mean, we're not going to see it from Will Howard outside of the preseason. The Steelers are going to have a much better idea if Will Howard can be someone like that or not. I think his career path, based on where he was selected, is be a serviceable backup quarterback. And if you get an opportunity, then maybe you could be something more. Yeah. Because you know what? People want to talk about the greatest 6th-round quarterback ever to play, which was probably arguably the greatest quarterback to ever play in Tom Brady. He wasn't drafted to be their answering quarterback. He was more or less drafted to be a serviceable backup. And when he got his opportunity, he became the GOAT.
Yeah, no, you're right. I'll tell you this about Will Howard, to kind of wrap things up, unless we have other thoughts, which is fine. I didn't realize how big he was. I mean, his measurables, he's 6'4". He's every bit of close to 235, 240. I didn't realize it until I saw a video. He was at Oakmont Country Club for the U.S. Open, and the Steelers social media team, I guess, was there. Mm-hmm. And they said,
I saw those videos.
What course would you play, and who would you golf with? What do you think you would shoot here? Nick Herbig is out of his mind, by the way, if he thinks I don't know. Anyways, I was like, dang, like Will Howard, he's thick. Like he's a tall guy, but he's not, I don't even know. Like everyone says he's Josh Allen. No, they're built different. Like he can run like Josh Allen, I guess, but it's interesting, you know? I mean, you look at Russell Wilson last year, couldn't see over the line. Justin Fields looks more like a really jacked up tight end, wide receiver, running back, hybrid player. Kenny Pickett had tiny hands, so it's different for sure.
He is built more like a Mason Rudolph and more like a Ben Roethlisberger.
I agree.
That's just that. By the way, he's built. That's why, honestly, I was intrigued by him during the draft process when Jeremy Betts was talking about him a lot, and I started looking at that. And then you also get Roy Countryman talking about him a lot, and I'm like, let's look at this a little bit more. Okay, I could see that. And he's been a winner. Like you say, if he didn't go to Ohio State and do what he did, as what Chris Carter was saying Monday, he's not a guy that's going to get drafted. And then still, he was a guy you thought might go. I mean, my goodness, I wanted to take him in the 4th round of our fantasy draft of the mock simulator on Scobro show, and he was gone in the 3rd. Yeah. And then you get a guy like that in the 6th. Yeah, that's generally what happens. So,
well, and it'll be interesting. We'll always look at the parallels with quarterbacks like Kyle McCord going right before he goes, and Kyle McCord's history with leaving Ohio State, going to Syracuse, and then him taking a spot. It's going to be fun to watch. Ultimately, we probably won't even know who these guys are in 5 years anyway.
Jeff, if Will Howard never takes a regular season NFL snap, it wouldn't be a travesty of a draft pick for the Steelers.
No,
like some people would think.
Absolutely not. It was a 6th-round pick. That's what people just got to wrap their brains around. It was just a 6th-round pick. I know that the quarterback position is important. I know the Steelers have been band-aiding the position now for a very long time, and it's time that they figure it out. It's not going to be this year, and I don't think that we all should look at him, meaning Will Howard, as the guy. I just don't. So it'll be interesting. But I think Will Howard is in a really good spot to learn, to get acclimated. Dave, you agree or disagree?
Yeah, I do. I'm just saying, think about this. What has really made the Pittsburgh Steelers, like I'm thinking through the 20 aughts and the 20 teens, what made that team really, really be something at times? And that was finding players that weren't a high pedigree.
Yeah.
The undrafted, the Ramon Fosters, the 7th round Brett Kiesels,
Alejandro Villanueva.
Yes. Though, he wasn't there very long, but I loved him when he was here. The 7th round Kelvin Beachum.
Yes.
Those types of players that when you take them late, if they don't ever play, it's not the end of. It's not a big deal. It's really not. To me, I don't even. Fifth round is. I've said this many times. Fifth round is where it gets sketchy. A fifth rounder should make the team their rookie year. Anything after that, it's not even guaranteed that they're going to make the team. Now, I think the Steelers have it set up for Will Howard to do that just the way they have it. So to me, if you could just imagine if you can get that diamond in the rough. So that would be a great thing. But there's no pressure there should not be the pressure or expectation from Steelers Nation for Will Howard to become that. If he does, wonderful. If he doesn't, okay, that's no big deal. So Steelers Nation needs to understand that. That's what a sixth-round draft pick means. And that means that if then he is something, wow. I mean, look at the 49ers with Brock Purdy and everything. Now, I'm not as high on Brock Purdy as a lot of other people are. I don't know that he deserved the contract that he got. But it is what it is. But to me, what made him so good was playing so high above his pedigree. Now he's got the contract to go with it, and the expectations for him are through the roof. Then they should be, because if you get that contract, that's what it should be. So for right now, the expectations for Will Howard should be, you're a nice guy that could sit there and I don't even know if we're still live anymore. Because Jeff is there. There he is. Okay. I lost you for a minute, Jeff. Can I even hear you?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, you're there. Okay, just making sure. Right. Yep, I got you. I was like, Jeff, I don't have controls over this. What are we going to do? So I'm sorry if I've gone on for a little. I'm sorry. Bad's not here. Someone has to ramble. So I just thought I would do that as a salute to Brian.
No, we're good. We're good. So, all right, we're going to take a quick break. For those that are watching live on any platform, we're not going anywhere. For those that are listening on the audio side, we'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. All right, Steeler fans, we're back, second half of the show. We do have some news to discuss. It's not Will Howard based. I wanted to get your take on a couple things, Dave. The Steelers Thursday today released Jonathan Ward. I thought it was odd that they released this guy. Now, I'm not surprised that they released him. They had signed Trey Sermon. That kind of was something that of note, I guess you would say. But still, the 90-man offseason roster, is it full? I mean, before Jonathan Ward was released, did they have 90 players? 91.
I know. It's really tough because I can't tell you exactly whether they have. I had that they did, but I also had. I go off of my salary stuff that I have for my spreadsheet for the salary cap. But I will be 100% honest with you. I have not updated players like, numbers 58 down for a while. So I can't remember what they added whenever they put Donald Parham on IR or things of that. If they weren't at 90, at 91, they were close. I don't know what the deal is. So maybe it was an injury. Maybe it was something else.
Because normally if a player just gets released from the 90, then it's one of those reasons it's like, it comes with an injury. You know, it's like, it's weird. I don't know. It comes with an injury or it comes with another signing. So it's like we're releasing Jonathan Ward and signing so-and-so. So we'll see what happens there. We'll keep you up to date. Also, Dave, the Steelers and Buccaneers joint practice, which is going to be at Acrisure Stadium on the 14th of August, has become official through the National Football League. It was rumored and everyone was speculating that it was going to happen. They did this last year with the Bills. They're doing it with the Buccaneers this year before their preseason game. What's your take on joint practices?
Well, I mean, last year there was some reports out of it because remember, they'll break camp the day before. They'll come back to Pittsburgh, have the practice, then a day off, and then their game. But it's not going to be open to the public, I assume, because it wasn't last year. That's not the way they wanted to do it. But we just got reports from the Steelers reporters. Especially with not having 4 preseason games, what I would assume that teams have done, and I know other teams have talked about this, this might keep people that are going to the actual preseason game from seeing some of those starters. I think the Steelers, if you want to have, I don't know if we're going to include Aaron Rodgers in this or not, but I'm going to include guys like Cam Hayward, who knows the contract status of TJ Watt, if he's going to be participating at that time or not. That's a long ways away. Some of those guys, Minka, Darius Slay, some of those guys, they might be more apt to have them in that quote unquote controlled environment that they have control over in that joint workout rather than have them play in the game on Saturday. So they might use that as an opportunity for more of those guys to play and then not play those guys in that preseason game.
Yeah, and I don't know. I used to, again, this is something I talked with Wesley Coleman on The Way We See It on the NFL feed. If you go to FFSN NFL and listen, we talked about joint practices. He put it best. Wesley said, in his opinion, joint practices in theory are perfect until a third string defensive end says, I'm trying to make this team and I need to make a play, and they come around and hit your quarterback or something, and then it changes everything. So I think this is great, though. I think this is the future of when the NFL cuts down preseason to 2 or 1 games, which we know will happen whenever they go to 18 games. I think joint practices are going to become very necessary for teams to get their teams ready and acclimated to gameplay. Because after a while, I mean, heck, you see it when we just cover the team at training camp. They get sick of hitting each other. They start fighting each other, and they just like
put a different color jersey out there.
I just want to hit someone else that is not going to be my teammate. Hopefully, when the season starts in September, I think this is great. I really do wish I think it was 2016 or 2017. The Detroit Lions came, but they went to Latrobe. And the fans got to watch it, and they got to get some great insight into the team there. And then the Bills came in 2018, I think. Fans were there at Latrobe. The last 2 years, they've done it at Acrisure. It's been closed to the public. And even the reporters, Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, last year with the reporters, even they didn't really report anything. There was no video outside of stretches and like individual throwing. Like, I don't remember.
No, they had shots. They did. They reported on 7 shots.
Okay.
The problem was, where were you going to look? See, the only reason I remember this is because of doing the tracker. Right. Because I was able to do a tracker during that time. The problem is because one end of the field, you've got the Steelers offense going against last year, the Bills defense.
Right.
Then you got the opposite on the other end. So you've got the Bills offense going against the Steelers defense. And the Steelers won both of those 7 shots. I remember that.
I do.
But they're used to doing 7 shots. So you would hope that they would win them. The whole reason they practice 7 shots is so they could try to win those in games on those key plays that we've seen come down to Wang Harbs trying to go for 2 to win the game, and the Steelers being able to stop them. Things of that nature. Or even better, Wang Harbs trying to tie the game right in front of me by going for 2. And who was it that snuffed it out? Was it Keanu? Or Dean Loud? There was some defensive lineman that made him go wide that Joey Porter Jr. could come up.
Oh, that play.
It was a 2-point conversion play to tie the game late in the game in Pittsburgh.
See, I remember
the Steelers stopped them, and that's how they won, 18-16.
The last 2-point conversions, I remember them failing. One was TJ Watt came in.
Yeah, that was the one.
Him to throw sidearm wide. Mark Andrews dropped one in Pittsburgh last year, didn't he? It was a catchable ball, but it was kind of out in front of him, and he kind of dropped it. But this might have been This was the last one, because it was my end of the stadium, the closed end of the stadium coming out. But it was I'm just outside when I'm looking at the field, what would be the left upright. So if you're looking at it from behind the kicker, it'd be his right upright. And it was on the other side. It was towards the other side of the end zone. And they went out, and it was supposed to, I think, be a Lamar run. And he ended up just having to kind of flip the ball away, hoping that someone could catch it because it came up and blew it up. They failed on a lot of conversions now that I think about it.
Yeah. So, but but that's why you I'm sorry. That was a very big side note going there, but that's why you practice 7 shots. And like I said, it was a big deal that the Steelers beat the Bills in both of them last year. I think they beat them pretty bad on one of them, and the other one, it was like 4-3. Yeah. But I don't know which one was which one. So they do those kind of things at the joint practices, but they're also doing multiple things at the same time that's sometimes tough to cover. But yeah, you didn't get video of any of that stuff.
Well, and I do want to mention real quick, SteelCurtainNetwork.com. We're in this downtime before training camp. But once training camp starts, and Dave does trackers every day of training camp.
Yeah.
It's all
It's a lot of work, so please go read the article.
It's time consuming to constantly be updating and stuff like that. So SteelCurtainNetwork.com, we'll have you all ready to go. We're going to be doing the training camp confidential again this year, and that's always fun to really get everyone geeked up for the upcoming season. Did they report on the 23rd of July and the first practice is the 24th?
First practice is the 24th.
For the
first
love
padded
of God.
practice. So it's the 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th.
Non-padded.
28th is an off day. 29th
Pad.
should be pads. I think that's a Tuesday.
I think you're right.
It's my daughter's birthday, so I'm going to have to know whenever it gets close.
For the love of all things holy, please keep Aaron Rodgers away from sleds. That's all I'm saying. Keep him away from sleds.
I don't care about Aaron Rodgers with the sleds. I just wouldn't be able to stand certain members of the Pittsburgh media going on and on and on and on and on about it. Some of those which are even part of Fans First Sports Network.
Gee, I wonder which one you're talking about. All right. Last bit of news I want to get to here before we go into trivia and stuff like that. This ruffled some feathers amongst the Steelers fan base, and that was when one Jair Alexander chose to go to the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens got a steal of a deal, in my opinion. I think it was a 1-year contract, kind of a prove-it deal, $6 million base, upwards of almost $10 million with incentives, with playtime bonuses. Folks, I think y'all need to remember he's a free agent and can sign with whoever he wants. It doesn't mean the Steelers didn't put in an offer or a call. He might have just wanted to go to Baltimore. And if he went to Baltimore, it's where he played with Lamar Jackson at Louisville. They were college teammates. And he chose Baltimore. Dave, what was your take on the Jair Alexander deal?
Yeah. I talked about it a little bit I think on Pittsburgh Standard Time this morning. We talked about so much stuff. I know you're going to give me a hard time about how long that show was. That had to be the one we talked about it. That's what happens when Greg and I didn't talk for a week and a half. We just had to do that. Anyway, back to answering the question. He's only been healthy like one of the last 4 years.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. And I'm trying. I mean, he was the 19th ranked quarterback last year. Did I say that right? Cornerback?
Right.
Yeah. He was the 19th ranked cornerback last year. According to PFF, if you really want to take that or not. But he only played, I think, in 7 games. So you're like, oh wow, 19. Well, Darius Slay was 23rd. I mean, their scores are almost the same. So to me, some people are like, oh yeah, Alexander, the cheaper, younger, but doesn't necessarily mean on the field more. That one would have if I were a Ravens fan, which obviously I am not, I am the antithesis of one. This is a deal that I could get excited about because he's a good player, a very good player, on the cheap. You'll pay him more with incentives if he's actually on the field. It could work out very well for them. They were bound to get some of these deals after the Steelers keep getting them, especially like quarterback.
Right.
That someone chose to go there and do that. I just think it's going to be interesting to see who's going to start there. Who's the starters now?
Well, I think Humphrey has to be one of the starters.
They got Wiggins that they drafted as a first rounder last year. I was kind of glad they took him because I wasn't very high on him. So that's the thing. I don't know how he would fit in there. And then of course, can I say it? Because there was 2 cornerbacks that were out there, and he was a free agent, could decide wherever he wants. But that does, and so yes, he signed with the Ravens, but that doesn't mean that the Steelers are completely out of it.
Are you talking about Jalen Ramsey?
Yeah.
I guess here's my question. Do you think, Dave, that the Steelers genuinely need help at corner?
This is why I don't know about a Jalen Ramsey. Where the Steelers, nobody is beyond upgrade. We understand this.
Yeah.
Where the Steelers could use an upgrade is in the slot. So I don't know. I mean, does Jalen Ramsey want to come in and be a guy that's not an every down guy on the outside? That's someone that could play the slot. How they would work that out, I don't know. Do you have someone like that that's in the slot and could play outside in order to try to keep a few snaps down for Darius Slay since he's such an old guy? I don't know if that's something they want to do. I don't know if that's a good idea to do at cornerback. So I really don't. It's one of those things. I'll break it down if it happens, but if it doesn't happen, it's just because it might not have made the most sense.
I mean, if the Steelers are going to make a trade, I feel like there's other positions they could upgrade.
Wide receiver is way more important.
Yes, absolutely.
They've already upgraded at cornerback. I really think that they have.
And I think a lot of people are underestimating the potential in Brandon Echols. I'm not saying Dante Kent, 7th-round pick, because I don't think you can put any stock into him unless he's a special teams guy, which he does return kicks. So, hey, there's some value there. But ultimately, the Brandon Echols is an experienced veteran. And I think he could be, and I've said this on multiple shows, I'll say it again here. I think he could be a Deshaun Elliott-esque type signing where everyone's like, hey, who is this guy? I don't even know. He turns out to be a pretty solid player. I remember Arthur Millette was that type of player. He actually played well for Pittsburgh. Mike Hilton, when he came
He's
in,
still a free agent, right?
He got cut by Baltimore. Actually, I mentioned it.
Sorry.
Mike Hilton was a no-name.
He's still a free agent, isn't he?
He's a free agent. But again, these players turned into something, and even though you don't know them very well when they get signed, they can turn into something. So I think a lot of times on paper, people look at like, wow, Jalen Ramsey. And I'm not saying he would be a bad pickup, but what's he going to cost? He is on a hefty contract. What's the draft capital going to have to be? How are the Steelers? And I think this with wide receiver and corner, Dave, I'll say this and I'll get your take. I think they can be super patient. Like, be patient. If Jalen Ramsey's pissed off at the Dolphins and doesn't want to show up, then wait till he gets released.
Yeah.
That happened with Jair Alexander. He just didn't choose to go to Pittsburgh, you know? And so even with wide receiver, if there's a team like the Packers, everyone assumes because they've started to target wide receiver in the draft and they have a really good depth of wide receiver. Hey, you be patient. And eventually the Packers might say, we're not going to get this guy through to the practice squad, so let's get something for him. And they want to do a deal. And those are kind of like the Kevin Dotson, Kendrick Deal deals towards the end of training camp. So I don't know.
And this is where, because we've talked about the compensatory projections. As of right now, if you want to project how things are going to fall along. I mean, we did a whole podcast, you and I did on Let's Ride. Was that Memorial Day?
Yeah.
We did that? Yes. Mm-hmm. That you could always go back and listen to it. But I mean, if you want to look at it where they sit right now, the projections are the Steelers would get a 3, a 4, a 5, and a 6.
Right.
So that's why you're sitting there. If you give your 6th round pick, but you're going to get another one back as a comp pick to pick up a wide receiver before the season starts, that's still pretty good usage of your assets, in my opinion.
I agree. I absolutely agree. And I think that Omar Khan can be patient right now. And even at wide receiver, everyone wants him to go make a deal right now. I get it. There's other fish to fry as well. You do want to try and figure out what's going on with TJ Watt. I think they would be smart to start targeting the wide receivers that they might covet and then figuring out what's going to take. And I talked about that on, I think it was Wednesday's Let's Ride, where I talked about their to-do list before camp. And that was one of the things I wanted them to do. That's Sheldon White's crew. Okay, what are the wide receivers that we think might be available that's not going to break the bank? Everyone's talking about these players. And what about free agents that are still out there? Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen can say what he wants until the Steelers offer him more money than anyone else, and then he'll take the deal, just so we're clear.
Yeah.
So, all right, any final thoughts on all that, Dave?
No, it's this part of the offseason to speculate about those kind of things.
That's right. Speculation season is here.
Yep.
So, all right, do you have the dumbed down trivia ready?
The dumbed down. I don't know that it's that dumbed down. I've been holding this trivia for 3 weeks, Jeff, because we were, finally I don't say that we're previewing Will Howard on Pittsburgh Standard Time, and we finally do preview Will Howard. That's just kind of how it works. So this one, I think you might be all right with this one. I will tell you this. I'm only going back to the merger, so this should help you. We are not talking. This is not a Dick Shiner question,
man.
Okay,
I'm out.
But he wouldn't have applied to this one as well.
All right.
The Pittsburgh Steelers have drafted, I'm going to put a little asterisk next there because there's going to be a contingency of this, have drafted, since the merger, 21 quarterbacks who have appeared in at least one game in an NFL season. The only way I could filter these guys out now, the way they have it set up on Pro Football Reference, isn't just by them being drafted at all. It's I have to look at players that have actually played in a game.
All right, so I'm naming them, right?
So no.
Oh, I was running.
You're going to try to name all 21?
I was rolling through the Rolodex. I was.
Oh, okay. Well, we might get to covering them in one way or the other.
Okay.
Out of those 21, there are 5 quarterbacks drafted by the Steelers who only appeared in games with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They did not ever appear in a game for another franchise.
Sure.
Just Pittsburgh. Can you name those 5 quarterbacks?
Okay, Terry Bradshaw would be one.
Terry Bradshaw.
Ben Roethlisberger.
Ben Roethlisberger.
I'm going to say Landry Jones.
Landry Jones.
Okay. What about like Hanratty?
Was he already with this? Was he pre-merger?
I don't know. Now that you say that.
He's not on my list at all.
Okay. All right.
Of being drafted by the Steelers before 1970. Or sorry, sent from 1970 on. Sorry.
Got it.
I will tell you, you are right in there. Of the 2 that are left, one of them is from that era.
Joe Gillum, is he on that list?
Joe Gillum. That's number 4. That is very good, Jeff. Now you want your last hint? Sure. This is going to blow your mind. The other one is between the 2 others that you had said from the more modern era.
Okay, say that again.
The 5th person is between the 2 modern era quarterbacks that you listed.
So it's between
he was drafted between Roethlisberger and Landry Jones.
Did Dennis Dixon ever play for another team?
Dennis Dixon was on another team's roster, but never appeared in a game for anybody else other than the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Wow, so I got him right.
You got all 5. Now the question is, can you answer the follow-up question? This is the really hard one. Can you name the 3 quarterbacks that have appeared, that were drafted by the Steelers since 1970, that appeared in NFL games, but did not appear in any games for the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Did T. Martin play for the Steelers ever?
T. Martin, yes.
Okay, I don't.
He played in 3 total games.
Okay,
he was credited with being on the Pittsburgh Steelers. But you're the right kind of thinking.
Okay, so we're drafted by Pittsburgh, never played for them.
Never played for them,
Chris
but did play.
7th round pick.
Chris Oladokun has appeared in 1 game for the Kansas City Chiefs. So that's one of them.
That's one. How many are there?
3.
3. This is where Brian would be. Brian would be good.
Yes, this was bad. This was Bad's question the whole way.
All right.
I'll give you a hint. They were both from the same college.
Well, I'm thinking Brian St. Pierre. Did he ever play a game for Pittsburgh?
Brian St. Pierre. He played for 3 different teams.
Did he play for Pitt? Did he play in a game for Pittsburgh?
Yes, he did. They have him listed as Pittsburgh, Carolina, and Arizona.
Well, I guess my question is, so do they have to, you're just saying if they make the team but never actually see the field, that counts, right?
I'm going in to double check this the way they have it listed. Yes, Brian St. Pierre appeared in 3 NFL games. 1 in 2004 with the Steelers.
Okay.
1 in 2009 with the Cardinals, and 1 in 2010 with the Panthers. So you need someone that,
drafted.
And my other hint is, it is since 1970, there's only 1 college that the Steelers have drafted 3 different quarterbacks from the same college. 2 of them appeared in NFL games, but not with the Steelers.
I imagine Brian would.
And the other one is on his 3rd team in 4 years.
Is it from Pitt?
That's correct. They were both from Pitt.
I don't know these names.
You don't know who was drafted in 1993 by the Steelers, but only played for the Buffalo Bills?
No, I was 10. I don't remember.
That was one Alex Van Pelt.
Yeah, I wouldn't have gotten that one. Brian would have gotten that one.
Brian would have got that one. He probably would have got the other one too, from drafted in 1981.
Who's that?
And that's, I won't even say his name right, probably. Rick Dracano.
Yeah, I never would have gotten
Drafted in the 11th round by the Steelers, appeared in 8 games for the Cleveland Browns for the mistake by the lake. There also, one last question about these with what player from the Steelers drafted since 1970? There's actually 2 of them. 2 different players have appeared in games for 5 different teams. Who are the players that has appeared in games for 5 different teams that was drafted as a quarterback by the Steelers?
From the 70s?
No, since the 70s. Since 70.
A quarterback that's played on 5 different teams?
Played for 5 different franchises. Started games for 5 different franchises. Because, I mean, the one of them I know has even been on a different team that didn't appear in a game for him.
Oh, my gosh. What round was this quarterback taken?
Well, the one that was more recently was taken in the 4th round.
Huh. I'm drawing a blank. 5 different teams?
5 different teams.
Total blank here. I don't
Oh, come on, Jeff. He spent 2 different stints with the Steelers. And actually is on a different team now that he has not appeared in a game for. And the team that he played for between the 2 times with the Steelers, he never appeared in a game for. So he's been with at least 7 different franchises.
And he's a 4th round pick.
Yes.
He's still in the league?
Yes.
I should know this.
Come on, Jeff. The Steelers could have drafted George Kittle and instead drafted... Come on, Jeff, the rocket scientist.
Oh, Joshua Dobbs.
Josh Dobbs.
From Tennessee, the volunteer.
Yep. He when Tennessee was actually one of the teams he played for. Pittsburgh, Tennessee, San Francisco, Minnesota, and Arizona are all the teams that he played for.
Wow.
I can't see the live chat right now, so I don't know if anyone else is like, come on, Jeff. The other person who appeared for 5 different franchises was actually a starter for the Steelers for many years. Who also played for...
How many teams did Tom Zach play for?
Tom Zach was not drafted by the Steelers.
Oh, that's right. I knew that.
So this person that was drafted in the 3rd round by the Steelers back in the 80s appeared for Pittsburgh, Denver, Minnesota, the Jets, and Philadelphia. He was a starter for Pittsburgh and Denver mainly, and I'm pretty sure just a backup for the other 3. Minnesota, the Jets, and Philadelphia.
What about, was Bubby?
That's it. It's Bubby. It's Bubby.
Bubby Brister. There you go.
Yeah. Yep. That he played for 5 different teams. All right. So I just thought, with Will Howard, thought I'd do other stuff. Some people, you might have been tempted to say Neil O'Donnell, but he played for 4 different teams.
Man.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. That's some dark days for sure.
Yep.
But all right, hey, it's been a good show. Sometimes when you get to dive into some of this stuff, it's a lot of fun. Dave, what are your final thoughts?
Oh man, I'm used to having a bunch of time to compose myself while Brian does his. My final thoughts are, Jeff, we are a week down. We are now 1 week down from the 40-day Steelers hiatus. That means it's going faster than we probably realize. Training camp will be here before we know it. Yep. It will go, as I kept saying this morning on Pittsburgh Standard Time, it will go fast while the topics come slow for us that are creating content.
Yep.
But getting ready, I'm excited about doing our 30 scenarios in 30 days that should be starting up next week that we do leading up to training camp. So that'll be a lot of fun. So just if you want plenty of Steelers stuff, make sure you're checking out SteelCurdNetwork.com. We're continuing to give you lots of articles and information there throughout all this time. So if you're looking for somewhere just to make sure that you can stay up on your Steelers talk, that's a great place to check out.
Yeah, steelcurtainnetwork.com for sure. Check it out. Check out all of our podcasts. If you're in case you just listen on YouTube or watch on YouTube, make sure you check out all of the audio only podcasts like My Let's Ride. Dave has mentioned his Pittsburgh Standard Time already. The Here We Go Steelers show with Brian and Coach KT Smith. Check it all out there for sure. But that does it. That's a wrap. Dave, why don't you send us out like you always do?
Hey.
We'll see you next week, folks, on another Steelers preview podcast.